But last night, Rob, as we said earlier, the Lakers-Clippers game was phenomenal. And we had talked before about hoping
that the
stars were playing. And, Rob, it felt like all the stars played. I mean, Harden, I guess, could have played because P.J. Tucker, who was also in that trade, he did play. But whatever the case, outside of Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook for the Clippers, and then LeBron and Anthony Davis for the Lakers. And like you said, it went into overtime. Lakers won 130-125. And, Rob, LeBron James put on an absolute show. And it was a lot of people did. Kawhi was terrific, had 38 points, Rob.
It was depending on when you tuned in, Chris, to that game. You know, somebody was doing amazing because early on, you thought Kawhi and them had the Lakers number again, and it was going to be because it was 16 points at one point. I don't know what the biggest lead they had. Right. And then the Lakers came storming back.
Yep. And Paul George, he came back late because once the Lakers had taken command, George, came on strong late in the game. He had 35. And then Westbrook, Rob, 24 points, 11 boards, 8 assists, and 4 steals. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis showed up. You got to give him credit. 27 points, 10 boards, 4 blocks. D'Angelo Russell actually had 27 too, but he's not a star. But LeBron, Rob, for all these guys out there that played well, LeBron was the best player. 35 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, 14 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. And he took over. And I thought it was somewhat awe-inspiring because of his age. It wasn't his best game. It wasn't even close to his best game of his career or even one of his best games. But for him to do that in his 21st season, for him to do that at age 38, soon to be 39, and that's not even as big a deal as the 21st season to me. He obviously put up some decent numbers going into the game, although he's averaging just 22 points. But he was doing it in spurts. Last night, he played well, throughout, came on late. And what I see, Rob, with him is he's still very good physically, but because he can't totally rely on athleticism, and obviously he's always been a cerebral player too, but I think he now is playing a little bit of a more skilled game as far as the mid-range jump shot, hitting that. He was hitting that well last night, pull-up jumpers, things like that. So I thought LeBron played well. To me, clearly his best game of the year. And to do it at his age, Rob, I thought was incredible.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that he still can do it. It's pretty amazing. But then again, we know he puts a lot into it. He spends $1 million a year, Chris. It's just a different – you have a better shot now with all the advances on stuff, all the things that people know, you know what I mean, to stay in shape. It's just a different world. Like, guys, if you remember, I just remember when people didn't do anything in the offseason. Chris, there's no working out. Like you got fat a little bit, and then you had to work it off to get ready for the season. And now these guys are in shape all year round. And, not everybody, but it's doable if you're willing to put the work in. You see some people and some guys, when they're done, Chris, they're done. And they balloon up. Even Barkley, at one point when he first stopped playing, if you remember, he was big. You know what I mean?
He just lost a lot of weight.
No, right.
He definitely.
He looks great. Big. But I'm just saying, but you remember when he first stopped, he just blew up. And it happened to a lot of guys, former players, and you look at them and go, and I know people have never seen him as players go, he played in the league? You know what I mean? Like,
Rob, it is. I've talked to players that work out twice a day. And they say, like, after they've retired, And they've told me that if they didn't work out twice a day, they would blow up.
Yep.
And I think it's because, Rob, no matter, like, obviously while you're playing in your playing career, you're going to be working out. You're going to be in shape. Even in the offseason, you're going to be in a semblance of shape. So, you're not going to blow up for the most part. But when you retire, nothing, no matter how hard you work out, it's not going to equal what you were doing as a player.
And you were taking in stuff, like food and all that stuff, Chris. And then, you're not working it off, right? You're working out, but you're not working.
You're not working nearly like you used to.
Yeah, those guys when they were in the NBA and you run a basketball floor, run the floor. Are you kidding? What it takes to run a floor is amazing.
Absolutely.
Forget about putting the ball in the hole or playing defense.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of them, like you said, do blow up. But I do think, Rob, LeBron, I'm going to compare him to Tom Brady in this regard. Because, look, a lot of people will say, well, Brady won championships at the older age, which is true. So if you want to hold LeBron to that standard, that's fine. But I don't mean in that regard. I mean, I think I'm comparing him to Tom Brady and kind of changing our view or changing the standard for what you can do at an older age. They both have really put a licking on Father Time. Obviously, at the end of the day, he's going to win. But so changing what we believe is possible at a certain age and even I think going forward, Rob, we'll kind of expect guys to play longer. Like Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be 40 in December, and yet people are still expecting him to essentially play like or close to the MVP seasons. And even next year when he comes back and he'll be 40, about to turn 41, they will have those expectations. I think in the past you would have said, he's 40. I mean, what do you expect? Even there was a handful of guys here and there. But Brady obviously did it, I think, at such a high level that it kind of changed our views. And I think LeBron, too. And there's you're definitely right, Rob. It's just not just a LeBron James thing.
No.
I think he's the face of it, as Brady is in the NFL, but with all of the improvements in nutrition and working out and science and all of that, guys do play longer. Kevin Durant's 35, Rob. Steph Curry's 35.
He looked 45 when he got stripped at the end of the game, but that's another story.
He did there, right. But he has played well. We're not looking at him as an old guy. Dr. J retired when he was 36. Or turned 37 that year.
But you got to remember, they also faced a lot more physicality as far as the way they played. I think that beat some guys down, Chris. But you're right. Most guys played 13 years. Isaiah.
Larry Bird played 13 years. Isaiah played 13 years.
Yeah, that was the number around that. And then I think Joe Dumars, if I remember correctly, Chris, and you played 14 years. And even he, at the end, thought, what am I doing out here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
he did play 14.
Right, 14.
He played 14.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. When Jordan first retired, Rob, he had played 9 years. Think about that.
That's
just
nothing.
9 years.
That's nothing.
Right. But it felt it obviously felt premature, but still he thought that was a career. Because back then, it was, you mentioned 13 years, and then he comes back. He only played 13
full seasons
years with the Bulls, and then he played the extra 2 with the Wizards. But yeah, I just think, like you said, I think LeBron, so now I think, Rob, players aren't going to be thinking that at 37, 38 they can't do it anymore.
Here's the problem.
They won't
with
be
this.
as good as him or as close to their prime maybe as him, but I think they will be playing a long time.
The problem with playing a long time is good and bad, but it can hurt you. Because if LeBron plays, 3 or 4 more years, and then you're finished and you wrap up your career, and people say, yeah, you have 4 championships in 24 years. And people will look at that and go, that wasn't that special. He played a long, long time. Who's the guy I'm thinking about, Chris? Vince Carter. He had 2 separate careers. Most of the kids don't even know Vince Carter,
Dwight Howard, too.
The star.
Yep.
Dwight Howard had 2 different careers.
Yep.
That.
You're right.
Am I right about that? That's the thing.
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's the part that I think you got to be careful about is playing so long that people forget about where you were when you were that guy.
Well, I think Vince Carter's a terrific, and Dwight Howard for that matter, are terrific examples. Because, Rob, they're young kids, and not that young, but
right.
I mean just 20-somethings that probably look at Vince Carter when they see him on TV and stuff and have no idea how – I think he's the best game dunker in the history of the league.
Yeah, and you know what? They would look at him and say
crazy.
He's a journeyman. Oh,
right.
Yeah, he was on
Who
9 teams.
threes.
Right.
Who stood out at the three-point line and shot threes. I think LeBron's obviously different in that he's still playing at an incredibly high level. And I think another point you've made in the past, which is true, if you play too long with Vince, it's going to bring your career average down significantly. And that's the case with Vince Carter and Dwight Howard. But, look, the interesting thing you said about LeBron, that's the point in the championships. And I remember debating, Rick Bucher and I used to have this thing, we both worked at ESPN on the internet, where we would debate, we would type out debates and stuff like that. And we were debating LeBron, and this is when he was first in Cleveland.
Okay.
And I was saying, I don't know who I was comparing him, but I was talking about him winning championships, maybe comparing him to Jordan or something. And Rick Bucher, this is a great point he made. He said he's talked to some GMs and people around the league that thought the greater comparison might be Wilt Chamberlain, where you put up these incredible numbers, but you don't win as much. Right.
And that is a good comparison.
Right. I think Wilt played, Rob, 13 years. I'm going to look it up now. And he played 14 years and won 2 rings.
Right.
And so you're right. If LeBron, and I don't know, I mean, going into last night, I was like, he's not going to win another ring. And I still would say that. But last night would give some LeBron fans and Lakers fans some more hope because he played so well. But, he's got to keep it up. It's only game 5. So I think it's a good bet that he doesn't win another ring. And to your point, if he plays, say, 23 years and only has 4 rings, his argument for GOAT will all be on his numbers and he's going to hold a lot of records all time and his longevity. Obviously, no player has been this good for this long. So that would be his argument, but he's going to have a tough time getting over that championship hurdle unless he starts, he wins some more.
Absolutely. I think people will look at that and go, 23, 24 years. But you only won 4. He played 20 years where he didn't win a championship. That's that might be almost double somebody's career, right? Like, seriously, like that.
Yeah, you mean the years without a title.
Yeah.
He got to obviously got to 6 that he didn't win. But, that will be, maybe a trump card. And we're both in, say Jordan's the GOAT, and LeBron, they're going to argue the longevity. Those that say Jordan is going to be more dominance, in terms of winning and individually, but mainly in terms of winning, along with the great individual numbers. So